Hey guys, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I'm back with another movie ranking. This time I'm ranking the movies in one of my favorite cinematic universes. This one's been around since before the MCU, and people don't give it credit for that. It's the Askewniverse, also known as in Silent Bob's universe, the Kevin Smith universe. It's got a bunch of names, but this is the official name, the Askewniverse. It's complicated, but that's its title. I know these movies aren't peak cinema, but I love them anyway. Some of these are my favorite movies of all time, and if you have any issue with my ranking, that's fine, but this is my opinion on these movies. And I actually like all of them, so this was pretty hard to rank. But in dead last, you know what's coming, or maybe you don't, because most people don't even know this one exists. Jay and Silent Bob, super groovy cartoon movie. Now, this one has the biggest disadvantage of all. It's not that it's animated. A lot of animated things are amazing. I'm a big fan of animation. It's not that it's the shortest one. It's that not all the jokes land in this movie. Also, the animation is kind of iffy. Like, it's not even as good as the one from Clerks, the animated series. That show had great animation. I'm not actually including that show. This is just the movies. But this movie's not bad. I laughed during this movie. I have enjoyed this movie. I've only seen it once though, but still, this movie is funny and I do like it. It's just not beating anything else on this list. And it's got its ups and downs with this movie. I don't know where I would put this if I had to rate it with a number. But I do know where it's landing on this list, and that's number 9. Also, with how Kevin Smith is the narrator in this one, where it kind of has him like that, it kind of undermines the fact that Silent Bob doesn't talk. That's just a little nitpick I have with this one. But anyway, number 8 is a movie that I didn't actually like my first time I watched it. I laughed during it, but I wasn't sold on it. But I've rewatched it several times, and every time I rewatch Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, I like it even more. So maybe one day this might actually be in first, but today is not that day. I don't know why I didn't like it at first. I like all the new characters this movie adds. I like how this movie is a love letter to this whole cinematic universe. Apart from maybe the Clerks movies, it doesn't do much with those, but I'll get into that later. And I even like how this movie just makes fun of the fact that Hollywood is nothing but reboots, sequels, remakes, and it goes into that. I like that. I like how this movie goes over Kevin Smith's film career. I like all the new characters, and I even really like the humor. This movie is funny, and it has one of my favorite Ben Affleck Batman moments, and it's not even part of the DCEU. Okay, this movie is amazing, and I actually really like it now. I'm surprised I didn't like it the first time. I've come around on it a lot. It's pretty funny, and I recommend you give it a try if you haven't seen it. Okay, number 7. I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for having it this low, but I have Chasing Amy. This isn't because I think it's a bad movie. It's because I've only seen this movie once, and even then my TV was cutting out while it was playing, so I have only seen it once, and my experience watching it wasn't even the best. I do really like this movie. This is probably one of the most serious movies in this cinematic universe or franchise. I like the romance in this movie between Holden and Alyssa. I like Banky. I like Jay and Silent Bob in it. I like all the characters in this movie. I like the humor. I like when it's serious and romance. I just like this movie. I haven't seen it enough, though. That's the only reason why it's this low. If I saw this movie a few more times, I'm sure it would probably be higher. I think this is a really great movie, and Silent Bob's speech in this movie is amazing. But I can't put it any higher than number 7. Number 6, I have Clerks 3. Now, not a lot of people actually like Clerks 3. I disagree with those people. I really like Clerks 3. It pays homage to the previous 2 films and even a bit of Kevin Smith's film career, which I know Jay and Silent Bob Reboot did, but this one singles out the Clerks movies in particular, while also telling a story for the Clerks finale. I like how this one wraps up the trilogy. Some people say it's too dark, and it is dark, but it's also kind of a great story that would wrap up this trilogy. And this definitely is the least funny of all the Clerks movies, but I don't really mind that because this one is also the most emotional of the three in my mind. And I really like this movie. I think it's underrated and people give it a lot of crap because they don't like it. Well, I actually do like it and give it several chances. It's a really good movie. And yeah, I like all the stuff in it. I like the funny parts, getting to see Dante and Randall. I like all that. And I like the emotions between the two of them in this movie. This is a really good movie. And I wish more people actually liked this movie. Number five, though, I have the most underrated movie in this franchise, and that is Mallrats. Now, I don't know what it is, but anytime somebody ranks the View Askewniverse, Mallrats is always on the lower side, and they have the worst excuse for why they have it so low. They always say, you can tell this was early on in Kevin Smith's film career. But all of the rankings that ever say that, his very first movie, Clerks, is in first place on their rankings. So do you like his early stuff, or do you not like his early stuff? Mallrats is a great movie. It's canonically the first movie in this franchise, although Clerks was the first one to come out. This one takes place before Clerks. And I really like this movie. I like Brody and T.S. I like all the plot lines going on. I think the humor is very funny. I like Stan Lee in this movie. This was like back before he even did cameos in Marvel movies. And yeah, this movie is really good, and I really like Mallrats. It's simple, yes, but it's a good story, and it's a really funny movie. And I really like how this one connects to all the other movies the most, I would say. But I can't put it any higher because the next four are all amazing movies. But still, I really think Mallrats is underrated. The humor in this movie is amazing, and just I think the Stan Lee stuff is phenomenal because this kind of helped us get the Stan Lee cameos in the MCU, and his speech is pretty good in this movie. Plus, all the humor is great. Number four, I have Dogma. This movie might actually tell the greatest story out of all of these movies, and I know it gets a lot of backlash from religious people, and I can understand that, but I think this movie actually tells a great story, and you can tell that Kevin Smith put a lot of heart in this one while also keeping it funny. I like all of the characters in this movie. This movie actually has two amazing villains with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. And I think this movie does a great job with Bartleby and Loki, with the main characters, with Jay and Silent Bob being in it. And this movie does raise a lot of things because, like, if you compare it to Clerks, which is a really grounded movie, versus this movie, it raises questions, but I don't actually think about that. This movie is funny and it tells a great story. I think Dogma is phenomenal, and most people usually have it in the top three, but I actually like number three just a bit more than this one, so I had to put it in number four. I like all the characters. This movie has a great cast in it, and you can really tell Kevin Smith put a lot of heart in this movie. Number three, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Their own spin-off from this franchise, the first one of three, and the story may not be much. Well, actually, I think it is a really creative story, but the main reason you come to this movie is to laugh, and this movie is full of laughs. It's got an amazing cast. It's got Jay, Silent Bob, it's got Will Ferrell, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and plenty of other celebrities in this movie, and it's a really funny movie. It's full of a really creative story where there is a movie being made about Jay and Silent Bob, so they're going to Hollywood to stop the movie from being made, and even then, that is creative, and just this movie is very funny. All the jokes land for me in this movie, and I think this is a really good movie. One thing though, the first time I watched this, I hadn't seen Chasing Amy, so I was really confused on Jason Lee being Brody and then Banky, but now I get that since I have seen Chasing Amy, and that was pieced together. But yeah, that was always confusing to me whenever I'd watch this one. But the point is I think Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back doesn't have to be this really creative artistic piece of media. It's a funny movie and I love it for that. Number two, though, this one is going to shock a bunch of people because it's almost always people's number one, but it's my number two, and that is Clerks. I am not saying Clerks is bad by any means. It's in second place. I'm just saying I like number one more than I like number two for this ranking. Clerks was the first movie in Kevin Smith's film career, and it stands up because most people still think this is his best movie ever, and I can agree with them. This is one of his best movies. I like what I have in first place more, but seriously, this movie is amazing. It's my favorite black and white movie out of all the ones I've seen. Okay, it's one of my favorite black and white movies that I've ever seen. There are a bunch of good ones. But the point is Clerks is a great movie, and it's simple. It's about two guys that are clerks in a convenience store and the stuff they get into, and it's a great movie with a great story, and it's simple. It knew what it had to be, it's on a budget, and yet it's still a phenomenal film that a lot of people really love, and I'm one of those people. I love the dynamic between Dante Randall, and this movie is the first one to introduce Jay and Silent Bob. They definitely have a much smaller role in this movie because, well, people didn't know they would be the standout characters. But they're still really funny in this one. The only thing I can say is that since this one was made on a budget, it doesn't have as much as the other movies do. All of these are made on relatively smaller budgets than most movies, but still, Clerks stands up because this movie was made on a budget of $25,000, and it's still an amazing movie. I really like all the characters in this movie, and I like Dante's lesson that he learns. Silent Bob's speech is still amazing to this day, and I really like Clerks, but there is one movie out of all of these movies that I would put above Clerks in this ranking, and that is Clerks 2. Okay, now I know a lot of people will go back and forth on which one they like more, and it definitely depends on which one you saw first. I saw Clerks 2 before I saw Clerks 1. But Clerks 2 takes everything that works about the first movie and adds on to it while also increasing the budget. It's not like one of those movies where it's just take one, add more money, equals better sequel. This movie stays simple. It's still about two guys getting into wacky shenanigans when they're clerks. It just adds on to it and gives it a little more stuff to do and get them into wacky-er situations. It gives us more great characters. It gives us Elias, Becky, and Lance Dowles, okay? This movie is hilarious, and I actually don't mind that it's not in black and white. I think this one helps. I think the fact that this one is in color helps it stand out amongst the other movies. The beginning of it is still black and white, which I really like, but it has a great shift on when this movie turns into color. And I'm going to say it, this is one of my favorite movie sequels of all time. I put this up there with Empire Strikes Back for me. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's a really funny movie, and it tells a really good story. Yeah, so that's going to wrap up my ranking of the View Askewniverse movies. If you enjoyed, leave a like. Let me know down in the comments what your ranking is for these movies. This is Grand Admiral Thrawn signing off, and instead of how I usually end a video, I'm going to end it the way that I should for this video by simply saying I'm not even supposed to be here today.